Hey, come on. Hey, what?
Here we go, here we go, here we go now. Let's chit chat, this is the show now.
Come on.
Bad black mama's gonna let you know now. Here we go, here we go, here we go now.
Come on.
Let's chit chat, let's chit chat, let's chit chat, sis. Hey,
What's up?
let's chit chat, let's chit chat, let's chit chat, sis. Hey.
Hey, ladies, how are you doing today?
Hey,
Hi, everybody.
we're hanging in there. Beautiful day in February. Like, where they do that at?
I
I
So,
know.
know
but
Is
we
it
know
warm there,
coming
Keisha?
to a- coming to a-
it is 70 degrees.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
we ain't
yeah.
that hot, but
Yeah.
it-
We were
Yeah.
69. We were 69 in Philly today. So,
Yeah.
I wasn't
Record.
69 here in Jersey. I was like 64, maybe because I'm closer
Okay.
to the shore. So, but it was
Yeah.
nice, and the wind was blowing.
Beautiful.
It felt really good. But I don't even know how to start this one because this is like a kind of a touchy subject.
Mhm.
I'll just say this much.
Well,
Let me just start with this. Kim K, Kanye West, everybody know they're getting divorced, okay? I think it's the aftermath is more pressing than the actual divorce, because they both have been seeing people, it seemed like it would be mutually understood that their marriage is over. I don't care when people feel like they catch feelings again and want to try to rekindle something, because sometimes that works. You know what I mean? Sometimes you can bring a marriage back. You know what I mean? I think this episode is more about what is going on now, this after, you know what I mean, and how this kind of draws into where do we draw a line on what is, acceptable, and not saying acceptable in the fact where you are not becoming harassing, threatening, and downright scary to your partner. Like, I'll admit, I'm not a Kim Kardashian fan. I don't look at her stuff, and I mean, I think she's a beautiful person. I think she's what she does to help people. I think it's awesome, but I'm not just her biggest fan, But I do have a soft spot for anybody who is trying to co-parent. You know what I mean? And when we say co-parent, that we mutually agreeing on the upbringing of the kids. So what I see what's going on now is a lot of manipulation, and narcissism, and downright abuse, to the fact where, and y'all may not agree with me, to the fact that when you are dissolving a marriage, somebody has to take the high road. You know what I mean? Somebody has to be civil, you know what I mean? Hopefully both people are civil. But when one person go off the rails, it's easy for the whole the whole, I guess, dissolvement to really become even harder, because it's hard to get divorced. It's very emotionally trying. But what I see him doing, I have seen my friends go through this, manipulation and drawing children into this crossfire, because it is children are involved. They don't have any babies anymore. They got younger kids, but their kids are able to understand, to my knowledge. Maybe y'all could tell me something, because I told you I don't really keep up with them. But that's just my feel on it.
well, I feel like any relationship that's ending that involves children, or any relationship period where one person feels like there's still something left, you need to be very clear if that's not something that you want. And once you make that very clear that you no longer want it, then that other person needs to respect it,
Right.
period. I think I said to you, and I said on our Facebook page, how I just kind of felt like the setup for this particular situation is his history with mental illness.
Yeah.
And so who in his camp is able to pull him back to say, you're going too far. You need to sit down with someone, and you need to have a conversation, and you need to talk through this. and you need to speak with your therapist and have that conversation. So I feel like who he is and how he is how he's always been.
I agree.
I called myself a fan of Kanye West, but there are just times where I just be like, oh, yeah, he tripping a little bit. You know what I mean? And then we call it, artistic, but no, he's always had these narcissistic tendencies, in addition to being very conceited, and you know what I mean? It's one thing to be confident, but it's something else to be, conceited, right?
Yeah.
And so I just feel like it's harder because these people have such a public life, right?
Mhm.
And so this should be your opportunity to just kind of be quiet a little bit. In Kim's situation, being in that public eye, that's how she makes her money, right? In addition to several other ways or whatever. But at some point you got to decide, you know what, let me shut this down for the screenshots of what could be their text messages between each other. If she's saying to him, you're going too far, you need to stop this, then you need to stop him going on live talking about the daughter's birthday party. And I'm just
Yeah,
like,
I've been missing bits and pieces, so I'm not really up on everything he's doing. I just hear just a little bit as far as I heard about the birthday party, and I think he's seeing something. But you need to make, like you said, make it clear if that's not what you what you want, and not be going back and forth. And I think a lot of the damage is done sometimes way beforehand. And I know in this situation,
breaking up.
way back when he was in the public, just really embarrassing her in public, and she's still trying to help him and be quiet, and not say a whole lot of things. The moving across the street or whatever.
That was the first red flag.
Harassment, yes, and the harassment, whatever. But
that was the first red flag.
Okay, yeah.
I think, like I said, the red flags were there before she ever even married. That's the truth of the matter. And so when you want what you want, no one can deter you from it. I'm not saying that they weren't in love. I'm not saying that, but he definitely had these tendencies prior to them getting together. If you saw how he treated, and I'm not all the way up on it, but I'm enough up on it that if you saw how he treated Amber Rose, if you think he'll do it to her, what makes you think he won't do it to you? Yep. And so I think that that's more so where I'm looking at it at. But then I'm looking at it from a perspective of the young guy that's supposed to be seeing, Kim Kardashian or whatever from SNL.
He got issues too. He got issues too.
Right, he does. But what I'm saying is, what's he supposed to do?
I don't know, but you gotta be careful.
He might need to be. Listen, well, because I've always had a saying, and I don't like to use the terminology crazy for people that really have, mental health issues. But when you think you crazy, how you not know that the next person ain't crazier than you? You know what I mean? What you don't know the levels, right? And so now, if he feels threatened based on what you're saying, even if you just talking BS, what's he supposed to do? What is that person who's feeling threatened supposed to do and handle it even in his situation? And that's how this can go off the rails and just really just turn into something tragic.
When you know that you're dealing with a person who is like that, the best thing you do is probably keep all of your business as much as possible on the down low. Don't out in public with this person and all that to trigger all this stuff, to keep all of this going. And quietly do what you need to do as you're proceeding with your divorce.
But she can't, because that's her world. See, her world is.
Let me just interrupt y'all. I think this is where it first went off the rails when she went to the judge and asked him, could she put into record that she wants to go and date, even though they're in the midst of a divorce. Once you put that, she went to the judge because she wanted to be crystal clear. I'm not cheating.
Okay.
I want you to know I want to go and date. You know what I mean? Nothing wrong with that. But if you're dealing with somebody who their boundaries hasn't been really set, we're in the midst of divorce. Like I said, some people get back together. You know, I think that's where it gets a little fudgy, and you know he's challenged. You know what I mean? Now,
Well,
you can
but I
also
think
go
that
date somebody too. You see what I'm saying?
right, but the young woman just broke up with him.
Yeah.
And she's given other reasons, but she's cut her ties. But my thing is, even if Kim did that, in my opinion, she did that more so from a financial perspective because, they're intertwined financially. And so she needed that to be clear. So don't come up here talking about we're getting a divorce because of adultery and use that as a reason. So I think that's more so why she did that. Because to me, if you had concerns otherwise, then you would have put in a protective order for yourself. And I think that she's trying very hard not to do that, but maybe you should, no matter how much you care about them, no matter.
Orders, you get into the danger zone of her being able to get into the thing that he is such a threat to her that now the kids are in jeopardy, and you can open up a big can of worms. And I think she knows
it doesn't matter. Are you supposed to wait though? But I see
well,
my
that's
thing
probably
is
me and you talking. You know what I mean? Because hell, I will get a protective order once you put my first thing out there on Facebook, and then I'll be filing for full custody. But I think that because I wouldn't be waiting for no damn body. You know what I mean? And then
that's
but
my whole point.
You know the crowd you mess with though.
Just because financially they're up here, to me doesn't mean she needs to she needs to still act accordingly.
Yeah.
To me, what he's already done is enough for me to go and say, listen, I have some concerns. And my concerns need to be addressed, and they can determine what level in which they want to help her. But I don't think she should not go because she don't want to open up a can of worms. Yeah, she need to open up a can of worms because you don't know what's going
with that. I think that's a really great, because I always say that is us, and I say us maybe because we're more of the ordinary sort. But I always say this because we always hear it down the line. What does Kanye know really about Kim? You see what I'm saying? When I say the things that we don't know about Kim that could be leveraged against her, because I think it's going to come to that point. You know what I mean? So that's why I think she treads lightly with him, because that whole Kardashian clan and Jenner clan, it has to be stuff that's not privy to a lot of people. And by him being in that realm, he knows things about her. You know what I mean? Like she knows things about him. So you see what I'm saying? You get into a situation where I'm sure this is not her decision, because lawyers are all over this. You know what I mean? They're guiding her on what she needs to do. Because when you're dealing with somebody so fragile, and when I say fragile, we already know if he's not taking his meds, he's going to go off. You know what I mean? And that's why I think she's doing the course she's doing, because when it comes down to them kids, he put it out there. She's not letting them see them. She didn't invite to the birthday party, different things. I think she wants to cut complete ties with him, but she has to move.
Well, we did go to the birthday party.
Right. But
I think he's just saying that to say something.
Yeah, I think she's in more, and so when we think about them, they are celebrities, you know what I mean? Like you said, Chauncey, hell, we would be waiting a hot damn minute to be at putting all kind of restrictions and the kids ain't going with you. Like at the Super Bowl, I was like, Super Bowl, why is he sitting here all masked up? Like, what does his children think? You know what I mean? It's going on, because they're not little people. They're just, they're not, when I say little people, y'all know what I'm talking about, infants. But
they are little people. They're little kids right now.
Right. So the oldest child knows what's going on. She's not a 5-year-old. You see what I'm saying? She knows what's going on. And this brings me to this point, because I don't want to make it all about them, because I think people want to hear, when women run into this circumstance, and men, because men have this issue too. That's why CG was on here, because he always has insight from the male perspective, and Jay too. But when men and women run into this, where do you draw the line to say, hey, now we have overstepped boundaries? I'm a little concerned and afraid for my life, or my, my well-being, or just my own mental sanity. Where do we draw the line and say this is enough? I mean, there are perfect pictures.
There is no set line. You have to determine when enough is enough for you. That's it.
Yeah.
When enough is, when you're no longer comfortable, it's too much.
Mhm.
Because if you keep, putting the line here and then erasing it and then putting it a little bit further, then erasing it and but I care so much. When you feel uncomfortable, you need to do something.
Okay,
Point
so
blank, period.
put it in definitive terms, because that's probably us saying it, because that would have been several damn weeks ago, when you put the first damn thing on the Instagram, something like this, that okay, all
Mhm.
bets is off. You know what I mean? But
Well,
like
to
you
me,
said,
that's when I would have done it. And
yeah,
it doesn't matter what he knows. To me, when you feel threatened, and threatened don't necessarily mean, oh, I'm gonna punch you threatened. When you feel that what you have built, your empire is threatened, you act, period.
I agree.
Family, empire, whatever it is. So it don't matter what he knows, because apparently in his condition or wherever he is, he probably hasn't signed an NDA. He might have signed one in the beginning. Maybe that's why he's also careful. But because he could say anything at any time, it really doesn't matter. But what is more important? The emotional well-being of you and your children
Mhm.
versus your empire versus what he might say or do. For me, like I said, wouldn't matter what I have, the decision would be easy. But when you have that much to lose, maybe not.
Yeah, I think if you wanted to say, for people that's listening, of course, when you feel like you're in a very compromised situation, that may be different for each individual. I don't want to
Mm.
speak for all people, but that may be for each individual to make that decision. But when you feel, I would say, violated in some sort, you know what I mean? Like your privacy emotionally, you know what I mean? If you feel violated, I think that's where you start to draw the line. Do I think that most people do that? I don't. I think people.
What,
They
because I was
can't.
thinking about that, because most people do not. And I was wondering, why do you, or when whoever's in the situation, feel that they always try to protect that other person first before they protect themselves? I don't
Yeah,
want
that's a
to do
good
this
one.
because it will cause this, or I don't want to really do this. I want him to stop, but I don't want to file this. I don't want to do that. Because I want to try to protect his name as best as possible. And I think that's what was going on last year, election. We was trying to run. I'm trying to protect. I don't want to do that, but I want him to really stop. I'm going to try to do all I can to save him. And then it gets to a point, well, that's it.
Bets are off. All bets
Yeah,
are off.
all bets are off.
The thing is, I think naturally, even for myself as a believer, right, I'm supposed to treat my brother as I treat myself, right? And so protecting them is what I think human nature is. Our nature is not to immediately try to hurt the other person.
Right.
It's to try to protect them, especially if you've had love for them and you've cared about them or you were in love with them. All of those, I think you're always going to feel a natural protection in a way, depending on how things ended. So I think that that's normal, right? But again, when does self-preservation kick in?
After the first
Okay.
marriage, because after you had the first marriage, all bullshit is off for second and third or fourth marriage, because you'd be like, okay, pull that crap
Yeah.
up here. I'm not sticking around for that.
Yeah, but for her, she had been married before, but she hadn't had children before. So I think having
That
the
should make you even have
children,
more sense. Because guess what? I got to protect my kids. You like a the mother bee. Oh, that's when your ass is really gonna be out.
Sometimes you, like I said, you try to protect, okay, as far as when the kid's concerned, you try to protect the
their dad's
image
father.
of the kids have of their dad the best that you can.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true. But if
But
he
we
ain't
do,
shit,
and
but if he ain't shit, then what the hell? What are you doing? You just gotta. you gotta.
well, I think you have to get. I think you have to get to that point. And so again, and that's a different
And
point for each person.
And it's not an easy thing. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing.
No, you right.
And then one day you
people say
wake
no.
up and like, enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
And
Where
the other
taking your
difference is,
clothes? My clothes been gone.
and
I
And the
give
other
two.
difference is she's got bodyguards and stuff like that. We wouldn't have that, right? So then we have to work faster. But this is the same woman who, she was in
Right.
Paris and she was robbed at gunpoint. So she's got some trauma in her background with some things as well. So I can't see me belaboring the moment. I would just ask the courts to intervene more than I would, ask somebody to do something, because she does have physically, she's got bodyguards and stuff like that. But yeah, I would definitely bring it to the court's attention and let them know, listen, we got an issue here.
And still, whatever you do, as the kids are watching, as they get older, they're gonna, if you keep saying something negative, it's gonna really backfire on you. So you try
Yeah,
to
it will. It will.
be positive and as much as you can,
Right.
because it'll come back. It will show up later.
Just say this
Yeah.
line all the time. Everything gonna be all right, baby. Said, don't worry about it.
Mhm.
Then he just go into something. Everything gonna be all right. You ain't gotta get to no details. You ain't gotta bash. You be having the attorney.
But what I would do if she hasn't already, because she has the means, I would get her kids some help on how to deal with a parent who is dealing with these type of issues and has that type of fragility. So they definitely need to, they need to be, I don't want to say groomed, but they need to be prepared.
Yeah.
How things could possibly go or whatever. But just for the average Joe like us that might be in the situation, I would just say, whenever you start to feel uncomfortable, whenever you start to feel, threatened emotionally, or physically, then that's the point in which you need to make some moves.
My thought is that I hope that you have some confidant that you can talk to, because sometimes when you're in situations like this where somebody is abusive, and maybe he's not putting his hands on her, but or even in the past, but this is an abusive situation. You have somebody you talk to, because sometimes your judgment is not always, I won't say
That's true.
sound, but it could be challenged. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And sometimes if not say a real confidant, a real true friend that you have, or even your mom or something like that, if you have a good relationship, that sometimes sounding off to someone else and letting them know what you're feeling, what you're going through. I could tell you from my life, and I'm not gonna bring up any person's name or anything like that. The most the biggest thing, I'll say the biggest thing that I've learned in being in a situation where your mind becomes compromised is that saying something to somebody else can also give you clarity. You see what I'm saying? That I need to make a move. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times people stay
Say that out
silent
loud.
and stay and suffer in silence. And as the abuse elevates, they have to determine, oh, is it the kids? I want to stay here with the kids. And, well, I see your face trying to, I mean, I don't agree with that either. I'm out of here on like a smoking hot whistle. But when I say
I
some
had to
people
put in a
are really
restraining order.
challenged with that. You see what I'm saying? They're really challenged. And then when they start telling, they'll tell bits and pieces of it. Because I've had friends that do little bits and pieces that they're in some tumultuous type of relationship. And then when you just don't, want to interfere, but you give them some helpful guidance to help them. Because if anybody's listening, if you're in a relationship where you are not happy, that's number one. If you're not happy, you're not happy. But then if there's some type of any type of reason you think that person could hurt you, or you feel like you can be threatened by this person, you might want to have a conversation with someone that can help you along the way, because sometimes your decision may be a little screwed as much as this person is doing these things. That's just my 2 cents in closing this up, because I think it's up to the person's interpretation. What do you feel, Keisha?
I feel, well, if you're in that kind of situation, that the best thing to do is to, like you said, seek help and start making a plan for yourself.
A real plan. That's a good one,
A
Keisha.
real
A
plan.
real plan. A real
A
plan.
real plan for yourself.
Because sometimes you gotta be smart about these situations.
Mhm.
Because if you run your ass off, and
Sometimes
gotta
if you're in a situation, some people, they just can't leave at the time.
yeah,
But start having a plan in action. I'm gonna put this money right here aside. I'm gonna have this. I'm gonna put these documents, start getting your documentation. Oh, somewhere I'm just gonna be copying documentation that I
yeah,
need. When I walk out the door, it's gonna be all sitting in my car. Each day you just have a little plan of different stuff that you're gonna do. So
yeah.
when you can just finally, that last thing, I can walk out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
A
Right.
plan.
I agree.
Unfortunately, I've had to use a restraining order, and that was prior to me ever having children or being married. So, for me, I did that first, and then I brought in, my family, to let them know. And so, because I needed to make that decision for myself, and I needed to, be as cautious as possible. And it was about my feelings. And so what I appreciate is that when I went to put in that restraining order, they had a conversation with me. So you're talking over 30 years ago, but they had a conversation with me, and that person in that unit spoke to me and asked me certain questions. And so before they proceeded with the paperwork, there were certain questions that were being asked. So, I think that if you let the system work like that for you, then use it and utilize it, because now they have the special victims unit and things of that nature. So they can work with you. So I'd say you use it and utilize it, or, wherever you might see anything, counselors or therapists, your church, any number of places, just like you said, you utilize somebody and ask for help.
Sorry, y'all. It's just flying around. Y'all know I was just petrified of the plug. I was like, oh my God. Chauncey, I think you hit it on all the points too. You too, Keisha. I guess it's timing. I mean, it's really timing and what you feel comfortable with actually doing. Because at the end of the day, people have lost their lives over this. If you see what people are talking about, following, most women are not like saying anything about Kim. They're saying, he's out here saying these things, and it's a prelude because women have lost their lives over things like this because no one did anything about it, or you didn't move to the next step. So the biggest takeaway I have from this is when you feel threatened, one, make a plan. Make a plan. That's make a plan. But if you feel like you can't make a plan, it's so dangerous and it's just to that point, you gotta go. You gotta go. But make sure you tell somebody. Involve authorities. As you said, get involved with your church because there's a lot of support groups out there that can help you. So that's my take on it. And I hope anybody in this situation, I say prayers to you because it takes a lot of strength to sometimes walk away and save your own self. Because at this point, think about it, Chauncey and Keisha, most people at that point, their self-esteem, I ain't talking about Kim K, I'm talking about most average people, their self-esteem is lower. You know what I mean? They've been through things are challenging to them, but self-preservation is the number one law of life.
That's what I was getting ready to say, self-preservation.
Yep, self-preservation. So I think it was a good episode. So, any closing remarks?
No, just we're here for you, and get whatever help it is that you need. Reach out to whoever it is that you need to reach out to. Use social media in a good way that it's meant to be used. So cry out for help. That's all you have to do. Because even a person like him in his situation, technically he is calling out for help. Yeah. He's asking for help. He's doing it in a different way, but he is certainly asking for help. So and know your circle. Know your circle. Don't have yes men and women in your circle. Have a real friend is someone who will tell you the truth, no matter what it sounds like, no matter what it is. They'll be honest with you. That's what you need in your life. We all need that.
Well, you will definitely learn who is in your circle when you go through situations like this. The circle will be clear. They may turn into a dot, but the circle will be clear.
And you know what I was thinking about as well is don't hide out, because a lot of people feel ashamed.
Yeah.
what's going on, they try to keep it to themselves because, you know, you don't want to burden your
That's a big
friend, you don't want to burden your family,
Mhm.
burden them. Go ahead, tell it,
So,
That is a good one.
tell it.
All right, y'all. So we'll talk a little bit in the after show, but this was a great episode. So thank you for joining us tonight. You can catch us on all our social media page, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm your girl, Kimmy.
I'm Chauncey.
And I'm Keisha.
Everybody have a good
Bye.
night. We'll see you Wednesdays.